Hi everybody, welcome to science class. Today's Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed the sounds of the whales and the dolphin in the wide open ocean. Today's lesson's on aquatic biomes. So aquatic means water. We know from experience that not all water is the same. This sea turtle is swimming in salt water. Now aquatic biomes, there are actually two, and they each have distinct plants and animals. We have fresh water and salt water. What makes the difference between the two is their salinity, which is the amount of salt concentration that they have in the water. Freshwater biomes have a salt concentration of less than 1%, while saltwater biomes have a salt concentration of 3% or more. Today we're going to learn about saltwater biomes, and we're going to focus on two. The first one we're going to talk about is oceans. These are the 5 major oceans that cover our world: the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian, the Arctic, and the Southern Oceans. The second type of marine biome we're going to talk about is coral reefs. They are small in size, but compared to the entire ocean, they have 25% of all the marine species. The third one is called estuaries. That's where rivers and streams flow into the ocean. We're going to focus on the first two, oceans and coral reefs. Okay, the first type of saltwater biome we're going to look at is oceans. Oceans have 4 major zones. Now, most animals live in the top zone called the sunlight zone near the surface. It gets more sun than the next zone, which is called the twilight zone. That's anything below 660 feet. You'll see jellyfish. Looks like that's a hatchetfish there. The third level is called the midnight or dark zone. And the fourth level, the abyss. That's the super deep dark zone. In the midnight zone, for example, you'll see a deep sea squid and a viper fish. This diagram gives you more of a variety of the animals found at each zone. You'll also see on the right-hand side the scientific names that are used to identify these zones. Okay, the second type of saltwater biome is a coral reef. As I mentioned, the coral reef has about 25% of all the ocean species. Now, coral reefs are located near the equator, coastlines, and islands around the world. The reef provides food and shelter for reef fish, turtles, crabs, shrimp, mollusks, starfish, sponges, clams. Oh my goodness, the list goes on and on and on. Now we're going to focus for a minute on tropical coral reefs. A lot of the fish and invertebrates, algae, and microorganisms make their homes around these reefs. These tropical reefs only occur in shallow areas that are reachable by the sunlight because of the symbiotic relationship between the coral and the algae. So this picture here is a very shallow tropical coral reef. This is where the corals feed on sugar made by the algae living in their tissues, and they need that sunlight to feed on the algae. So what is a coral? Corals are close relatives of a sea anemone, and they have the same tubular body form called polyps, with a crown of tentacles surrounding a central mouth. But unlike anemones, many corals from colonies, with each coral connected to many others, form this large wall. It's a beautiful, brilliant colored coral reef, that is home to thousands of species of marine life. What I'd like you to do is pause this video and check out this short 3-minute coral reef video I found for you on National Geographic. Okay, if you had a chance to watch the video, I want to ask you a question. Is a coral reef or a coral an animal? The answer is definitely yes. Coral reefs are called rainforests of the sea. See, a reef is like an oasis in a marine desert. Food is scarce in open tropical oceans, but the reef provides food and shelter for a quarter of all the marine species. Even though the reefs only cover an area less than 1/100th of the whole ocean area. The biodiversity of marine plants and animals is just like the biodiversity we talked about in a tropical rainforest, except this is under the water. Same brilliant, beautiful colors that you see in like a poisonous dart frog, you'll see in some of the coral reef fish. The Great Barrier Reef off Australia. This is the biggest coral reef in the world. It lies off the coast of tropical northeast Australia. It is basically a vast complex of over 3,000 coral reefs all linked together in a chain of living coral rock. And I believe it's about 1,430 miles long. So the longest structure on Earth built by living things. And this is the thing, the Great Barrier Reef supports an amazing diversity of over 1,500 species of fish, 30 species of whales and dolphins, and at least 5,000 species of mollusks. Now we'll talk about what a mollusk is in just a minute. Let's look at some of the reef fish are brightly colored. Some swim in schools as they nibble along the coral, or they sift through the particles in the water looking for something to eat. Others live alone, hiding in crevices in the reef. You'll see in the next slide, I'm going to show you what an angelfish looks like. There he is, up on the upper right-hand corner. Now the reef is also patrolled by sharks because they're the top predator. On the upper left, underneath here, this is a black-tipped reef shark. Now they usually prowl the deeper waters outside the reef, but they also will swim up the channels between the coral and into the shallow reef lagoons looking for something to eat. Okay, earlier I mentioned marine mollusks are found in reefs. The mollusk family includes squids, cuttlefish, nautilus shells, octopus. In fact, the octopus live in the seabed crevices and coral crevices. They emerge to seek out prey like crabs and things like that. Now, the word cephalopod means head and limbs, and the octopus and the cuttlefish and the nautilus shellfish here all are part of that cephalopod family. The cephalopod family are considered invertebrates. Those are animals without backbones. We will explore these very soon. Okay, so let's review what we've learned today. Aquatic biomes, we know there are two types, freshwater and saltwater, or another name for them is marine biomes. There are three types of saltwater biomes: oceans, coral reefs, and estuaries. Oceans have four major zones. The coral reefs are a major marine biome with 25% of all the marine species found there. So we call tropical coral reefs those reefs we find in shallow areas. There's also cold water coral reefs located in deeper ocean areas. We talked about what a coral is, and hopefully in a few minutes, if you haven't gotten a chance to already, you can watch that video link. Coral reefs are the rainforests of the sea. We talked about the Great Barrier Reef off the northeast coast of Australia. We also looked at some pictures of some cephalopods, mollusks, and also we looked at some pictures of sharks and reef fish. And last, we talked about those marine invertebrates, animals without backbones. We're going to cover those in much more detail next week. All right, my friends, that is all for today. Tomorrow we will talk about freshwater biomes. Have a great afternoon.